Alright, so one of y'all, when I was at the Tri-5 roundup in Tennessee, said they wanted to see some more videos on the 59 Impala. I've been meaning to do one, but everywhere I turn, there's just been more trouble. So I got a little bit I'm going to talk about. What we got here is we got a whole lot of Bondo, and I grinded out 1/4 of an inch places in this door. And in this particular door, passenger side rear, I discovered some body damage, of which I've sit here with the dent puller, pulled out, shrunk with the water, cold water rag. Got this crease pulled out pretty good, so I'm pretty happy with how this door come out. But it doesn't stop there. The other rear door, and luckily it doesn't have any body damage, but the same thing, I grinded out a lot of filler. And we've got some rust here to fix, kind of typical of what I expected to find in this car. Unfortunately, the 2 front driver doors was not as lucky. They're at Philip Hartman's PH Fabrication up in uptown right now, getting basically the lower 6 to 8 inches of the door replaced. What can I say? It's what I found, it's what happened, it's what's got to be fixed. I still have trim to take off the car, but I started to take a break from that because I'm having to kind of feel my way through it. I've never disassembled one of these cars. There's a asinine amount of chrome on these things. So anyway, that's where we're at. I got to strip these door jambs because we got flaking paint and all in the jambs. I want to make, basically it's turned into more of a mild restoration on the car at this point. So, all right, good Saturday morning, everybody. We're out here on the 59 flat top. Another flat top Fiasco video. I don't know how many of these videos they'll end up being, but just kind of want to show you where I'm at on the car. Just kind of walk around and kind of show you a little bit. But basically, a wiring job has turned into a restoration. And the more I got to looking at the car, I'm like, well, even the roof's everything's got to come off the roof too. They done so much siliconing. If I had just redone the car from here down, it would have still looked like a auction whore. So all this is coming off. As you can see, they basically just glued on stuff that's supposed to have studs, just with insane amounts of silicone. There's silicone and crap just everywhere. This here was just all gauded up with it. Doors are off. I'm going to take the trunk lid and all of the loose front end parts, and these 59 Chevys have a ton. Fenders, all this crap over here, rear lower valences, front and rear, inner fenders, splash guard, and I take them to Mike Moore Dustless Blasting of South Carolina and get those blasted. I am to the point here in just a little bit. I'm going to try to get this thing running again, hot wire it with some hot wires and a jumper to the battery, where I can get it outside and over to the water supply where I can degrease and clean all of this. The plan is to work from the inside out, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to degrease everything. I'm going to clean up this firewall and paint it black. I do not care what Chevrolet did in 59. A white firewall is absolutely a hideous disaster. Oil and grease under the hood, 6 months, and it's terrible. So firewall is going to get painted satin black, just like the later model cars. All these cars here come satin black on the firewall. I'm going to be changing this over to that, satin black. Probably take these hinges off and have them sandblasted too. And the blast cabinet, my buddy just bought one of those. So of course all this is going to get blacked out where it's hid. Luckily, all the bolts on this car were new, so I didn't have any problems with rusty bolts, but they didn't believe in nut clips. So everything basically had to be used with nuts and bolts. It's just made it a lot more difficult. Here's the front and rear bumpers. They're actually in pretty good shape. Once the car is painted, I don't know how much these cost. I'm gonna look them up and see if I'd like to do a few new pieces of chrome, but parts for these cars are just so asininely expensive. I've actually got the hood worked out and painted on the backside, satin black already. So I do have one piece of the puzzle done. But a lot of this stuff's pretty complicated, especially when you combine it with a bunch of glue and silicone and stuff just don't want to come off. But remember, the old boy signed it. Whoever this dude is right here, he was so proud of his work on this car, he signed it. So I can only hope that fella did the interior, not everything else, because there's no way I would have been proud to sign this catastrophe. We've got issues here and here. All this is going to get grinded out. The roof should be okay, but I'll be stripping it around the drip rails, get all the crap. It's got a bunch of nonsense and rust down in here. Overall, pretty solid 59 flat top car. The problem is they didn't fix anything. And why, like, you strip the car all the way to the metal and then just not fix anything? That's what they did on this car. I haven't found anywhere I've grinded into it so far where there's traces of old original paint or red oxide primer. So that's what they did. Stripped it to the metal and didn't fix a thing. They did put a patch panel in here, but they didn't replace the trunk drop-off. The trunk drop-off was bad. That's where all the spray foam was at. I also ran into some more spray foam yesterday, right here. So, all right, so I said I wasn't gonna call this car a flipper special, but I'm really starting to believe someone who worked on this car was one of those car flippers. So I know a lot of y'all that's watched my videos, y'all probably seen some other videos on YouTube, but there's a fellow on YouTube, he goes by Uncle Tony. Uncle Tony's Garage. I watch a lot of his videos. Real good channel, you should check him out. But he's been going over to a buddy of his that's got a restoration shop, and they've been showing a lot of crap on cars of what they run into. Well, this is similar to some of the stuff that I have seen on their horror stories, and I just now ran into this. I knew this car had some issues back here, but as I tore into it, there's nothing here. I mean, all right, so this is actually part of the trunk floor on a 59 Chevrolet. The trunk floor extends out past out to the tail section and butts up to the tail section here. Remember, we're dealing with unobtainium on replacement parts, that nobody sells a replacement tail section. Why? For the most popular car going right now, nobody makes a lot of replacement parts for these cars. Another thing too, you may say, well, what do you mean? Well, a 59 Chevrolet convertible is the most valuable production car in the world right now. It may change in the future, but right now, currently, the most valuable production car made. Now, I ain't talking about some limited run of a sports car or something real rare. No. One of these in a convertible is worth as much or more than a 59 Cadillac convertible, and is even rivaling prices on LS6 4-speed 70 Chevelle convertibles. Those are not a mass-produced car. A 59 Chevrolet, they made 72,000 convertibles. So why there's not more parts availability, I don't know. But anyway, enough about that. But basically, you can see kind of how this was held together here. Okay, the fuel tank, and the reason I want to do this video is the fuel tank. All right, the fuel tank mounts here, and basically the back of the brace was bad, and it was being reinforced by a piece of thin tin that was in a square here, as you can see. I've done thrown that in the trash. But as I cut into it more, there was no structural stability really supporting this tank. If this car had got smacked right here, all this would have just folded, and it could have ripped the fuel tank and caused a gas spill, and we don't want to talk about what else. So, even though, you know, the brace here seems to be relatively solid, and the frame is very solid, it's not rusty at all. If I got smacked down low, probably okay. If I got smacked up high, there would have been a problem here. All of this has no strength left. It's all Bondo and fiberglass. Not even just, we're talking about just like fiberglass filler, not even actual fiberglass. So, also more spray foam. This whole channel is filled with spray foams. I've used the torch and stuff to burn it out. So, yeah, this is my car. I mean, I drove this car home from Colorado when I bought it, and I'm not real happy right now. This thing, you know, luckily, like I said, they do repo this brace in the trunk floor, but I mean, this is hundreds of dollars we're talking about here. So I'm going to salvage this brace. It looks pretty solid. I'm going to make patch panels for the trunk floor, the tail piece. I'm going to make all this and try to piecemeal this thing back together. It's just going to take some time. The trunk floor, luckily, is pretty solid. Just needs, like I said, a patch, but this was unsafe. I mean, there's no ways around it. This was totally unsafe. Whoever did this should be ashamed of themselves. So, if y'all out there around the Denver, Arvada, Colorado area know someone who worked on a 59 Chevrolet, probably in the neighborhood of, I would say since 2016, I think is when I was told it was started on. I bought this car in 2020. So somewhere between 2010, 2016, it may have one in their shop. You may know who did this, I don't know. And I wouldn't recommend whoever worked on this car to work on anything, because what they're doing here is unsafe. This is what we were riding with. We had nothing here really supporting the fuel tank. So, and I knew it was kind of piecemealed, but I did not realize to the extent. There was nothing here. I mean, like I said, a hard smack above this brace and the frame, and it's folding, and the fuel tank's on the ground, and there's probably a fire. And that's just the fact of it, people. I mean, this is the type of crap that is out there. So beware when you buy these cars. This is my first rodeo with a 59 Chevrolet. I've never had one. It's my first one. I don't know where all the issues, the problem areas are. I know where to check the common areas on every car. I didn't know this was like this. This really irritates me because this is around a fuel tank area, and this is unsafe. This will get someone killed or badly hurt. Yeah, so what? You get hit in the back, the car bursts into flames, you're okay, you get out, whatever. But now you've got a car that's on fire that's going to burn up. Instead of just being some rear damage, now you've got a burned car that you can't replace. So at the least, you're going to lose the car to a fire. At the worst, you're going to be in the graveyard. So, yeah. So anyway, just beware. And on these 59s, check this area. Obviously, this is a problem in this area here. So, this car I'm just not going to sugarcoat it. It's in bad shape. But this car has issues, and I've just kept finding them. So I apologize for not putting out more videos on this car soon. It's just been, every time I'm not working on someone else's customer car, I'm working on this. And, you know, I ran into basically having to replace this whole area. None of this stuff is reproduced aftermarket. I had to make it, piece it together. Patching up the trunk. This is one of them situations where if this would have been someone else's car, I would have ordered a trunk floor for it. It's my personal car. I'm the one that's got to shell out the $600 for the trunk floor, so I've got pieces of metal laying around. I'm going to repair it myself. So that's kind of the way I look at it. But labor-wise, if you're paying me my hourly rate to do this, you done bought a trunk floor. So that's why it's always more labor smart to replace the panel. Even for myself, I would have rather replaced this whole panel, but it's not available new. So you do what you got to do. This car, I'm clarifying it as a flipper special. I'm saying at this point, the story that was told, why was the car stripped to the metal? It's almost like the car was stripped to the metal by someone who actually had intentions of doing it the right way. Because if you're just going to patch it up, why don't you strip it to the metal? The car has no original red oxide primer on it. The only red oxide is in the trunk, and you can see that here. So my hypothesis on this car, it was stripped. Someone told somebody it was going to cost way more than they wanted to pay. It was then took to someone else who filled their ear full of Sweet Daisy music. And this is the disaster that ensued. They just basically took and hammered in the rust, filled it full of body filler or fiberglass reinforced filler, used a direct-to-metal high-build primer that's really thick, and proceeded to refinish it in the original white paint. Again, this is not even average quality work. This is absolute hackery that was done on this car. Had this car been any more unsafe and unfit, they would have patched it up too. This area around the gas tank back here was a problem waiting to happen. If an accident had have occurred, the gas tank probably would have fell on the ground. Doing a upgrade here, eliminating the studs that go through the car and using the later style clips, turn backwards, and we're gonna see how that works. So I'm guinea pigging this because I gotta do my Cadillac too. And then I can put the word out to the masses if it works well or not. So if not, it's okay. I'm gonna I'll use some two-sided or something, because these cars had a design flaw. Basically, if you get a busted windshield, you got to tear the headliner down to get this chrome. Did have all this sandblasted. It's already painted, firewall's painted, engine compartment is cleaned, still needs to be detailed. The entire front end and trunk lid, minus the hood, was sandblasted and primed already. Losing the ugly aftermarket padded to dash. This is going to be painted back factory color red. Just a little more on the red side. This was more of an orangey red, and I want it to match the seats. So anyway, with that being said, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Also, my buddy Kevin, who's helped me out a ton in the past, has got a YouTube channel now. He's putting a lot of videos on about his van. He's gotten into the van, but he's got some hot rod power tour stuff and a lot of other stuff on there too. He's got the watch hours. He got his 4,000 watch hours almost. He just needs about 600 more subscribers. He's at like almost 400. So if y'all would go over to Sir Crunch, I'll type his username in the video description and give him a subscription. And let's try to get Kevin's channel monetized here on YouTube. So with that being said, again, flat top Fiasco. Flipper car nightmare. That's what this car is. Everybody have a good weekend. See you next time.